I never thought I'd be one of those guys to get blindsided like this. But here I am, sitting on the edge of my bed, staring at my phone like it's some kind of confession booth. My wife, Emily, has always been the kind of girl who knows how to push buttons. Bitchy, manipulative, always throwing attitude when she doesn't get what she wants. We've been together for 10 years, married for 3, and honestly, I always thought we had a decent life. Not perfect, but decent. She's the kind of woman who acts like she's too good for everyone, especially me. But I guess that's part of why I stayed around so long, hoping she'd change, hoping she'd see I was trying. Lately, though, I'd noticed little things. She'd come home late from work more often, claiming she was stuck in meetings. She'd hide her phone when I walked into the room, which was weird because she's not exactly the kind of person who cares about sneaking around. I'd catch her in little lies or her attitude would turn icy for no reason. I brushed it off at first, convincing myself she was stressed or just tired. But then I started noticing her getting more distant, texting more secretly, and the worst part, she was acting like I was invisible sometimes. One night I was sitting on the couch, flipping through some old photos from our wedding, and I saw her phone lying on the table. She had gone to bed early, probably to avoid me as usual. I don't know what possessed me, but I glanced at her screen. And that's when I saw it, messages. Not just casual chats, but full-blown conversations with Mark, her childhood friend and the best man at our wedding. I'd seen him around a few times, a guy I thought I knew well enough, but his name suddenly felt like a punch in the gut. The messages were thick with flirtation, and I caught phrases like "can't wait to see you again," and "last night was so good," and "we need to keep this secret." I swear I almost dropped her phone. I read more, my pulse pounding. They'd been secretly texting for months, maybe longer, and the worst part. She told him things she never even told me, how she felt lonely, how I was inattentive, how she needed someone to make her feel alive. My stomach turned. How long had this been going on? 3 years, longer. All the while I thought we were just a normal married couple. I felt like I'd been hit by a truck. My head spun and I couldn't believe I was seeing this with my own eyes. I closed her phone quickly, my hands trembling. I knew I had to call her out, but I also wanted to break down every word I just read. It was like everything I believed in, everything I fought for had just been shattered in a single instant. The next morning I woke up feeling like I'd been hit by a bus. My mind kept replaying that message thread over and over like some sick loop I couldn't escape from. I didn't sleep much, and every time I closed my eyes I saw her face, that smug look she always threw on when she was lying or trying to dismiss me. I knew I couldn't keep this bottled up. I had to confront her. She was still in bed when I got up, pretending to be asleep as I stood there and stared at her. Her hair was a mess, her face half covered in sheets, but I could see the slight smirk she always had when she thought she was getting away with something. I felt my blood boiling. I didn't want to yell, at least not yet. I wanted to see what she'd say, what kind of lies she'd come up with. I sat on the edge of the bed and looked at her. "We need to talk," I said quietly, but with enough weight behind it that she knew I was serious. She opened her eyes slowly, rolling them like I was bothering her. Typical Emily. She looked at me with that dismissive glare, like she was already planning her next excuse. "What's wrong?" she asked, her voice dripping with attitude, like she was annoyed I was bothering her first thing in the morning. I didn't jump right into it. I wanted her to know I knew everything. "I saw your messages," I said, keeping my voice steady but firm. "The ones with Mark, the ones you've been hiding. For how long?" Her expression changed instantly. The smugness disappeared, replaced with that fake innocent act she put on when she was trying to lie her way out of something. "What are you talking about? You're crazy. You must have seen something that isn't there. You're imagining things." I shook my head. "Don't lie to me, Emily. I read your messages. You've been cheating on me with Mark. You've been sneaking around behind my back for years. Don't even try to deny it." She sat up suddenly, throwing the sheets aside, and shot me a look that could kill. "Oh, so now I'm a cheater. Really? You're jumping to conclusions because you saw a few messages. Just because I talked to Mark doesn't mean I'm cheating. You don't have all the facts, so shut up with your accusations." I felt my fists clench. "All the facts. You're messaging him late at night, telling him things you'd never say to my face, lying about us being busy or tired. You're hiding your phone, sneaking around, and you expect me to buy some pathetic excuse that it's just talk." She rolled her eyes and scoffed. "Look, I don't owe you an explanation about my conversations. Maybe if you paid more attention to me instead of spying, you'd know what's really going on. But no, you'd rather accuse me of stuff I didn't do." That was when I saw it. Her face was full of contempt, like I was some kind of idiot. I've been so blind. How could she be so brazen? She was a master at lying, that's for sure. I could see she was trying to spin it, trying to make me doubt what I saw, but I was too furious to fall for her BS. I got up, feeling a mixture of rage and heartbreak. "You're a liar, Emily. I don't know who you are anymore, but I'm done pretending. I want a divorce." I couldn't even believe I was saying it, but I knew I couldn't keep pretending this was just some misunderstanding. She stared at me, her eyes narrowing. "Divorce? You're joking, right? Over some stupid messages. You're overreacting. You're just angry because I didn't tell you sooner. It's not a big deal, just some stupid flirtation." I shook my head, feeling like I was about to lose my mind. "No, Emily, it's not just some flirtation, it's a betrayal. You've been cheating on me with your so-called best friend for years, and you think I'm just going to accept that? You think I'm stupid?" She opened her mouth to say something, but I cut her off. "Save it. I don't want to hear your lies anymore. I want out. I want to find someone who actually cares about me, not some manipulative, lying bitch who thinks she's better than everyone else." I walked out of the room, leaving her sitting there, stunned. The adrenaline was still rushing through me. I knew I'd have to figure out what to do next, but at that moment, all I wanted was to get away from her, to escape the pain and betrayal. I felt like I'd been punched in the chest, like my whole world was collapsing. It was only the beginning, I could tell. After I left the bedroom, I paced around the apartment like a madman, trying to breathe, trying to process what had just happened. My mind was in chaos. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and furious all at once. How could she do this? How long had she been lying to me? I kept replaying that message thread in my head, every word she'd written to Mark, every lie she'd told me over the years. It's like my entire life had been built on a lie, and now everything was crumbling. I decided I couldn't stay there, not anymore. I grabbed my phone and called my buddy David. He'd been my best friend since high school, the guy I trusted more than anyone. I knew he'd tell me the truth, no matter how ugly it was. I needed someone to talk to, someone who wouldn't sugarcoat it. When he answered, I practically shouted, "David, I think Emily's been cheating on me. With Mark. For years. I found their messages. I saw everything. I don't know what to do. I feel like I've been punched in the gut." There was a long pause on the other end, then David's voice came through, low but firm. "Man, I'm sorry. That's some serious shit. Do you want me to come over, or do you want to talk more?" I hesitated for a second, then nodded despite knowing he couldn't see me. "Yeah, come over. I need to think." While waiting for him, I sat on the couch, nervously tapping my foot, staring at the wall. The anger started to settle into something darker, colder. I was imagining her in bed with Mark, the way she always acted like she was the queen, how she'd lied so effortlessly. I kept thinking about her bitchy attitude, her lies, her manipulations. For years, I'd given her everything, my time, my loyalty, my love, and she'd just thrown it all away for some cheap thrill with her childhood friend. When David finally arrived, I didn't bother with small talk. I just told him everything again, how I discovered the affair, how she was lying her way out of it, how I felt like I'd been played. He listened quietly, then finally said, "You gotta decide if you want to fight for this or if you're done. But whatever you do, don't let her make you feel crazy for catching her. She's the one who's been sneaking around behind your back. She's the one who betrayed you." That hit me hard. I'd been so angry, so emotional, that I hadn't even considered what I really wanted. Deep down, I knew I was done. I couldn't see myself ever trusting her again, not after all this. Still, part of me felt like I'd been stupid to get into this mess in the first place. I'd always thought she was just a bit bitchy, a little difficult, but I never imagined she'd be capable of this level of deception. Over the next few hours, I kept replaying everything, trying to piece together how I'd missed the signs, how I'd been so blind to her true nature. It was like waking up from a nightmare. The more I thought about it, the more I realized how much her lies had shaped my entire perception of our marriage. I felt a strange mixture of relief and devastation. Relief because I finally knew the truth, and devastation because I had lost my wife, my best friend, my partner, all at once. I knew I'd have to make some hard choices soon. I'd always believed in loyalty, in fighting for what's right, but now I was questioning everything. Was it worth trying to save this mess? Or was I better off walking away and starting fresh? Honestly, I didn't have an answer yet, but I knew one thing for sure. I'd never let her manipulate me again. The betrayal was too deep, and I was done being the fool in this game. The days that followed were a blur. I spent most of my time packing up some of my things, barely sleeping, thinking about what I was going to do next. Every time I saw her face, I felt a surge of anger mixed with sadness, like I'd lost the person I thought I knew, and she'd betrayed me in the worst way possible. Emily kept trying to come up with excuses, saying she was under so much stress, or it didn't mean anything, but her words just sounded hollow. She'd lie then lie again like she thought if she spun enough crap I'd believe her. One afternoon she came into the living room, her typical bitchy attitude on full display. "Look, I know you're mad, but you're overreacting. This isn't a big deal. Mark and I were just friends. I was lonely, okay? You didn't see the way you've been ignoring me. Maybe I needed someone to talk to, someone who actually listens." I just stared at her. "Don't even try to gaslight me, Emily. I saw your messages. You were just friends. You were cheating on me. You've been lying for years. I don't even recognize you anymore." She scoffed and rolled her eyes. "You're so dramatic, all this over a few messages. You're making a mountain out of a molehill. Maybe I should have told you, but I didn't think it was your business. Besides, it's not like I actually slept with him." That's when I snapped. My patience was gone. "You didn't think it was my business? Are you kidding me? We're married, Emily. I was supposed to trust you, but you've been lying to my face for years, and you're justifying it like some kind of victim. You're the one who's been sneaking around, not me." She looked furious now, her face turning red. "You're such a fucking control freak. I didn't cheat on you, and if you're so insecure, maybe you're the one with the problem. I'm tired of this. If you want to leave, just do it. I don't need your stupid accusations." I felt my stomach knot up. Her words stung worse than any punch, and her attitude made me feel like I was losing my mind. I realized that arguing with her was pointless. She thrived on chaos, on twisting everything to fit her narrative. The truth was out, and no amount of her bitching or lying was going to change that. I decided I'd had enough. I told her to pack her things and leave. I didn't want to see her face again, not like this. I needed space, time to think, to figure out how to get out of this mess. I thought about calling a lawyer, about filing for divorce, but part of me still felt frozen. I was angry, yes, but also hurt. Deep down, I knew I'd been played, and it was going to take a long time to heal from this. That evening, I sat alone in my apartment, staring at the empty space where she used to sleep. I felt numb. All the pieces of my life that I'd believed in, my marriage, my trust, had just evaporated in a cloud of lies. I wondered how I'd ever been so blind, how I hadn't seen the signs earlier. But then I remembered the messages, the lies, the sneaking around, and I knew there was no future with someone who thought she could get away with cheating and just lie her way out of it. I realized that, no matter what, I was going to have to rebuild. I didn't want to be that guy who gets used and thrown aside, but I also knew I deserved better than a wife who lied, cheated, and dismissed me like I was some kind of idiot. I'd always believed in loyalty, in honesty, but now I had to accept that some people just aren't capable of it. All I could do now was brace myself for what's next: divorce, heartbreak, maybe even a little revenge. I'd figure it out. I had to. The days after she moved out were probably the hardest I've ever felt. I kept thinking about how everything fell apart so quickly, how I went from being a happily married man to sitting alone in a place that suddenly felt cold and empty. The betrayal burned deep, but what hurt even worse was realizing how much I'd trusted her all these years. Emily had been the queen of manipulation, always acting like she was the victim, always spinning her lies with that bitchy smirk. And I fell for it. I decided I needed to do something about it, not just for myself, but as a way to take control. I wasn't about to let her walk all over me. Not without a fight. So I contacted a divorce lawyer. I wanted her to see I was serious, that I wasn't just going to let her cheat and lie her way out of everything. The lawyer told me to gather all the evidence, the messages, the texts, everything I had, and I did. I printed out the full thread with Mark, saved screenshots of her sneaky texts, even dug up some of her late-night calls. I wanted her to know I wasn't going down quietly. Meanwhile, I kept thinking about how I'd rebuild my life from scratch. Honestly, I was furious at myself for not noticing sooner, for missing all the signs. But I was also angry at her, how she could be so bitchy, so dismissive, so full of herself. I kept replaying her words, her attitude, that dismissive look she always gave me when she thought she was better than everyone else. It was like she was mocking me, humiliating me in the worst way. One night, I decided to confront her one last time. I texted her, telling her I wanted to meet and talk face to face to get some closure. She responded with her usual attitude, saying she didn't see the point, that she didn't owe me anything anymore. But I insisted. I told her I wanted one final talk, something to clear the air, to let her know I wasn't going to be a doormat anymore. When she finally showed up at my place, she looked at me with that bitchy smirk like she was already planning her next move. "What do you want?" she snapped. I took a deep breath. "I just want you to know that I've seen everything. Your lies, your cheating, all of it, and I'm done. I'm done being played. I want you to leave me alone and stay out of my life." She rolled her eyes and scoffed. "You're overreacting. This is all just your crazy imagination. I don't know what you think you saw, but you're making a big deal out of nothing." I felt the anger rising again, but I kept my cool. "No, Emily, I saw your messages. I know what you've been doing, and I don't want anything to do with you anymore. Just get out." She looked at me for a second, eyes narrowing, then turned and huffed out of the apartment without another word. I felt a strange mix of relief and emptiness. It was finally over, but the pain of betrayal still lingered. That night, I stayed up thinking about everything: the lies, the deception, the way she'd used her charm and bitchy attitude to manipulate me. I realized I'd been a fool for so long, trusting her blindly. But now I was finally waking up. I knew I'd have to learn how to live without her, how to rebuild my life and trust again. It was a long road ahead, and I wasn't sure how I'd get there, but I knew one thing: I was done being her fool. I'd take back control someday, even if it meant starting over from nothing. The weeks that followed were a blur of legal meetings, moving out, and trying to piece my life back together. I threw myself into work, anything to distract from the constant replay of her face, her lies, her betrayal. Every day felt like walking through a fog of anger and sadness. I found myself questioning how I ever let her manipulate me so easily, how I didn't see the signs earlier. But at the same time, I knew I'd been too trusting, too blinded by love to realize I was just another game to her. It wasn't easy. Every time I saw her name pop up on my phone, I'd feel that familiar surge of rage, but I also learned to block her out. I refused to let her control my emotions anymore. I knew I had to focus on moving forward, even if part of me still felt broken. I started to rebuild my confidence, reconnect with friends I'd neglected, and even went to therapy to help process everything. I learned that betrayal cuts deeper than you expect, but it also teaches you what you're really worth. One day, I finally sat down and wrote out what I'd learned from all of this, what I'd take away from what was the worst betrayal of my life. Trust, I realized, is fragile. It's something you have to protect, and you can't just give it away blindly. I also learned that some people, no matter how much you love them, are just not worth your time or energy when they've shown they don't respect you. Emily was a perfect example. That bitchy attitude, the lies, they were her way of holding onto control, of making herself feel superior, while I was busy trying to keep everything afloat. Looking back, I see now that her cheating was just the tip of the iceberg. It was a symptom of her whole personality: selfish, manipulative, and incapable of real loyalty. I don't regret ending it, because staying in that toxic mess would have only made me more miserable. I've come to accept that some people are just not meant to be in your life, no matter how much you want them to stay. In the end, I learned that revenge isn't about getting even. It's about reclaiming your power and refusing to be a victim. I could have gone down a dark path, done something stupid, something I'd regret, but I chose to focus on my own healing. I want to be better, stronger, more aware. That's what this has taught me. Trust is earned, not given blindly. Love is about respect, not lies. And sometimes the best revenge is simply walking away and proving to yourself that you deserve better. Now I'm just trying to move on. I don't forget what she did, but I refuse to let it define me. I'll find happiness again on my own terms, because at the end of the day, I know my worth, and I'll never let anyone make me feel small for trusting the wrong person again.